So, today we're doing something different. We're traveling back in time 12 years to 2013 to talk about two video games, BioShock Infinite and The Last of Us. Why these two specific games? Not only were they arguably the two most popular games of that year, but more importantly, they played an integral role in legitimizing video games as an art form, not unlike film or theater or literature. These two games were the top contenders for many a 2013 Game of the Year award, and for me and Aaron, at least one of these titles ranks high amongst our favorite games of all time. But which do we prefer? I'm Team Bioshock Infinite, while Aaron is Team Last of Us. Now that organic, not in any way scripted intro is out of the way, let's talk about why. So I guess first we'll talk a little bit about the fundamentals of any video game, which is gameplay. Which do you prefer?
This time, probably more than any other time, I felt like BioShock was starting to show its age a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think The Last of Us holds up way, way better as far as like what it's doing, like and still working very well. BioShock Infinite is a first-person shooter with like magical powers mixed in, and The Last of Us is kind of a stealth action third-person shooter with some crafting and survival elements as well. But yeah, I guess you can kind of give me what your thoughts are in the gameplay, but personally I think The Last of Us holds up much better.
I will say that playing The Last of Us again this time, I did appreciate the gameplay more than I did the first time, because I haven't played it since 2013, and I've only played it once, whereas I played BioShock Infinite many times. And I do not think I was very good at games back in 2013, just didn't play them that often, and I just kind of sucked at the game and didn't really enjoy it. I actually did find the gameplay far more enjoyable this time. I did like the crafting element, but I do prefer BioShock Infinite's gameplay. To me, it's more fun. The Last of Us at times is a little too slow. The gameplay trudges along at certain points of the game where I want to progress, but I feel like I'm just stuck in one location for too long. Whereas BioShock Infinite is all about momentum. It's all about moving forward. It is very quick. It's been compared to Call of Duty, which I wouldn't know because I've never played Call of Duty and I never will. But yeah, it's fast. I love the 1-2 punch of shoving a lightning bolt down someone's throat and then just pumping them full of lead. That's a lot of fun. And I think there's a little more variety in the way you can approach the gameplay in BioShock Infinite. Because you not only have your gun and your vigor, which is your magical ability that you shoot out of your hand, but there's also Elizabeth can open up tears to bring in allies, like you can activate a motorized patriot to come assist you in combat, or health kits, or something like that, or cover to hide behind. Or you could make use of the sky rail and do an attack from above. That's very satisfying. And I do like the variety of guns, although I do think the Vox weapons kind of suck.
Yeah, they're awful.
I guess there's a story reason for that. They are like they're
I
little.
assume they're crafted by Chen Lin.
Yeah, Chen Lin. They're like a small militia that's trying to build up, so their weapons probably would be inferior to the Founders, but that does make sense from a story point, and I guess I kind of like that they work that into the gameplay where you are given inferior weapons when you pick up a Vox item, but they're not as fun as the Founders.
From what I remember, they are like really powerful, but the way they work mechanically is like different than the standard weapons. I just don't like them very much.
Yeah, no, I use the Founders' weapons every time. I think that's one of the only times I ever sided with the racists in the game. They had better weapons. But yeah, I like Elizabeth as a companion in the game. I think she's a little more helpful than Ellie is in The Last of Us. She saves my ass many a time during gameplay from being killed or getting the right item at just the nick of time.
Yeah, they both serve like similar, but again, different purposes. In BioShock, it's very much like, giving you items and like constantly making sure that you have certain things you need if you start to run out. In the case of The Last of Us, like, she does help, but it's more like kind of reading the environment and telling you like where enemies could be coming up from, or like, hey Joel, look over there, or like behind you, or she's much more like involved in that kind of way until like the second half of the game where she actually becomes like an active combatant and then actually does provide a little bit of like cover and help.
Yeah. Also, Elizabeth can take care of her damn self, whereas in The Last of Us you have to worry about, your ally has been grabbed by a walker, so now you have to save them and potentially risk a game over.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Like, the name of the game is survival, and the tension of like stuff like that is like part of the whole thing.
Yeah, it makes sense, but I have an intense hatred of escort missions and defense missions.
Well, I don't think The Last of Us like really becomes that, because the AI, admittedly, in the first game is like not that great when it comes to like your companion. They don't seem to like alert the enemies at all. Sometimes they'll just run out of cover and then they don't seem to
No,
notice.
not at all. That happened. There was one really memorable moment during this most recent playthrough of The Last of Us where I was in a bar and I was hiding behind the bar and these soldiers were lurking around trying to find us. And then Ellie walks right out in front of a soldier. And she not only walked out in front of him, but she also collided with him and pushed him back.
Yeah.
And you would think they probably should have programmed it to where if your ally is spotted, you will get shot at or they will shoot you.
Yeah, that's the problem. It works both ways. So it's like maybe they probably realized in developing that like the AI would sometimes do weird stuff. So to counteract that, they just made Ellie just completely unnoticeable.
Yeah.
Unless you're engaged in active combat because you've been spotted.
You can, I guess, levy that complaint towards Elizabeth in BioShock Infinite as well because the enemies don't shoot at her, but in the case of her, there is a story-based reason why the founders wouldn't shoot at her.
Yeah.
But the Vox and Slate's men have no reason not to shoot at her, so
Yeah.
I guess they're both equal on that. But I also found that Ellie could be a bit of a nuisance sometimes because anytime I wanted to like pick up a ladder and put it against a wall and climb it, it seemed like she always had to go first, whereas I selfishly always tried to save my own skin first.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's
So that would slow down the gameplay and risk me getting attacked by a zombie. So I didn't like that. It's like, no, I wanted to climb my selfish ass up the ladder.
That didn't bother me at all. Like I've naturally just kind of let the other characters do stuff because one of the things that both of these games do very well as far as the companions go is they'll kind of roam around the environments and they'll like look at things and do commentary on it, or they'll provide like world information or personal information.
Yeah.
So you were talking about the faster pace of BioShock. The slower pace of The Last of Us is the thing that I really like about it. And the thing about BioShock this playthrough that I really took note of was just how rapid everything was, that it kind of like took me out. And it's not just the gameplay, like it even goes to like dialogue and like how certain scenes play out. But just to keep it on the gameplay for now, yeah, for me BioShock, eventually what it devolves into is like you finding your core set of abilities. So you find the gun you like and you find the plasmid or the salt that you like or the vigor that you like, and then you kind of just like use those over and over and over again. I think the vigors in this one, there's maybe like two or three really good ones, and then there's like two or three practically useless ones.
There are a few I don't use at all. Like, I love Shock Jockey. I love Murder of Crows.
Yeah.
Return to Sender is pretty useful. That's the one where they shoot at you and it collects the ammunition and you can throw it back at them. But you get it very late in the game, alas.
That's the other thing is like it kind of doles them out as you progress, and then some of them you don't get until pretty much the tail end of the game. So like, what's the point?
It would be cool if they had an option where you could play the game with all your vigors and weapons, but that would probably mess up the story because some of them are story-based plasmids you acquire.
Yeah, another thing I didn't like is some of them seemed like extremely conditional. Like the water one, what is that one called again?
Undertow.
Oh yeah. So yeah, the undertow, the vigor, like to me, I really only found it useful if I was on like a skiff or a ledge and I could push people off the cliff. But in standard gameplay where I'm not next to like any ledges or edges to push people off, I didn't find any use for it really. I know you can like grab them and pull you towards you.
Yeah, I actually did find that very useful and fun, this gameplay. You have the ability to like shoot a water tentacle out at an enemy who's far away. You can bring them right to you and then just pump them full of lead. That's great.
Yeah,
And I also just love throwing people off buildings.
Yeah, I mainly used like the rifle and the shotgun, and then like the second half of the game it was like the rifle and the hand cannon.
Oh yeah, my favorite weapons to use were the carbine, the machine gun, and if I wanted to take out like big enemies, I liked the shotgun and the rocket propelled grenade launcher.
Yeah. And then the other thing that's kind of weird is the way, and I mean this is by gameplay and like design, and it's there to exploit, but Sometimes I felt like the bosses or the bigger encounters were undercut by how simple the game mechanics were. So like fighting the what are they, the George Washington and
The motorized
yeah, the
Patriots.
Patriots. You just shock them, shoot them in the gears, shock them, shoot them in the gears, shock them, shoot them in the gears, and they're dead. It becomes like a repetitious thing. Charge sucks. Never used it.
I didn't use charge very much at all.
I didn't use Return to Sender very much this time. I did use the crows quite a bit. I also used
Possession.
the possession. I used that one quite a bit, especially in the beginning.
How about the Devil's Kiss, the fireball?
I didn't use it very much.
I actually did find myself using that one a lot more. This was another thing regarding the gameplay. I also love the this is a BioShock staple, which is the environmental hazards. Like an enemy will walk into a pile of oil. You
Yeah.
throw a fireball, they light up. Or they walk into some
Yeah.
water, shoot it with the electricity, they light up.
I feel like there's not enough of that in this game. In the first like original BioShock, there was definitely a lot more of that. Like considering the whole place is underwater.
Yeah.
There's water everywhere.
Comes with the territory because BioShock 1 is more isolated because it's a series of corridors because it's underwater city, whereas BioShock Infinite it's out in the open, so there's more
Yeah.
open space. It's a little harder to place those environmental hazards.
From my memory, the first game just used its plasmids better. Like even as far as like gameplay progression, like here's a big ice block that you can't pass through until you get the fire one, and you can unlock certain like secret pathways by using all the different plasmids.
That's definitely true. That is one thing that BioShock 1 does a lot better than Infinite.
But even like activating switches and stuff like that, you do it once and it's for a story reason, and then it really never comes back again in Infinite. Another thing I don't like is the limitation to 2 weapons. And this is something that The Last of Us solves in a unrealistic but a decent enough way to where I don't think about it. There's like all these options, and like I know they want you to cycle through the weapons throughout the game, but I feel like it would have encouraged me to use my weapons for different scenarios if I could have all of them, rather than, I found the weapons that I like that are good for basically all scenarios, so I will use them and stick with them, and I'll never switch weapons. Like, if I could have carried a shotgun and a pistol and a rifle and an RPG, I would have been switching up way more often than I did, I think.
The 2 weapon system doesn't really bother me too much. In the first game, it was 8 weapons, and then in Infinite, you get 2. At first, I was a little off-put by that, but subsequent playthroughs, I actually came to like it because it did force me to, like, experiment. Like, okay, well, I want to know what this weapon does, and if I have all these weapons at my disposal, I feel like I'm just gonna kind of stick to the ones that I like. But the fact that you're forcing me to choose between 2, I kind of want to play around and see what else there is.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that I didn't like is if I would switch to a weapon and I didn't immediately find it useful, then I would just drop it and switch back to what I was
Yeah,
using.
that is an option.
But it's like if I could carry more, then there would come a time later in the game where I might say, you know what, let me actually switch to the volley gun or the RPG or the, whatever type of weapon. Maybe I can have a use for it here, and then, maybe I'll come to appreciate it in different ways.
I also thought they did a good job of putting you into arenas where it would allow you to switch between different weapons if you want, particularly in like the Good Time Club sequence. I feel like you get a good assortment of weapons to choose from there, or maybe even the end of the game when you're doing the defense mission on the Hand of the Prophet ship.
Yeah, I just kind of got stuck in the loop because the combos that I were using was kind of just trivializing most of the combat encounters, like shock, hand cannon, and then their head pops off. It's like, then move on to the next enemy, rinse, repeat.
Then there's The Last of Us. The weapons. At first, I think I primarily would use the pistol and the revolver. I mostly oscillated between those 2. And I would break out the shotgun if I can. Over time, I did come to appreciate like the hunting rifle.
The hunting rifle's great.
Yeah. And
especially if you're like using stealth, it's a good way to like take a big dude out or just get the drop on somebody.
But the biggest surprise for me with the weapons in that game was that there came a point where you had to go down, like, I think you were sneaking through, like, a graveyard or something like that, and there's a bunch of clickers that you have to get through, and you get a bow and arrow. And I, like, used the arrow, and I like, failed, like, twice, and then I just didn't bother with it again until the Ellie mission in winter when you're forced to use the bow and arrow, and then it became my favorite weapon. And
Yeah.
I just felt like, oh my god, all that time wasted. This is a wonderful, wonderful weapon.
The bow is it's amazing for its stealth capabilities
Yeah.
and its focus on range. It's not a good like close up weapon because it seems like your arrows break more whenever you use them up close, and plus like taking out clickers, it takes more than one headshot because their head is covered in fungus and crust.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Yeah, using it from a distance and in stealth, and especially against runners, it becomes an extremely powerful tool.
Yeah, stealth is critical to The Last of Us, whereas the BioShock Infinite, there is no stealth mechanic until there is one, and then there
Yeah,
isn't
and then
again.
it's just gone again.
So, yeah, I did really love using the bow and arrow in the winter section, taking out David's men one by one.
That's kind of its time to shine because they do slightly depower all the enemies because you're playing as
A child.
a 14-year-old. So they kind of pump up your abilities a little bit there, and people become easy to take out. Yeah, the bow is one of the best weapons for sure, but I've found myself using pretty much everything. If there were certain encounters, I would, okay, this looks like something I want to use my shotgun for, or, okay, there's, guys all the way across the way, and I can kind of use my hunting rifle and take one of them out, take one of their heads off, and then I could switch to this thing, or oh, I'm getting swarmed by runners and infected. Maybe let me switch to the sawed-off shotgun and just blast everybody close range.
Maybe I'm just a bad player, but a lot of the time, the weapon I used was just dependent on how much ammunition I wasted with the others.
Yeah, no, the other thing about it that I like is, like I said, it is a more patient game, and it wants you to think about the encounters and take your time with them. The combat is so good that I would find myself sometimes just replaying encounters because it allows you to restart the encounter. If you pause the game, you can
Oh, really?
restart. Yeah, because like I would see the enemy setup, and I was like, I'm not pleased with this run. Let me restart it, and I would like kind of redo the encounter until I got like a good run or a positive outcome.
I never did that, and I probably wouldn't have wanted to do that because that's another thing I like about BioShock Infinite is because it does usher you from arena to arena to arena,
Yeah.
whereas I want to progress. I don't
Yeah,
want to be
no,
stuck forever.
I just liked the combat, so I just liked playing it. There were times where I would just sit there and kind of play the encounter over and over again until I got like a really good run or a good good setup that for certain kills, and like learning the routes and seeing how the AI behaves. Because another thing that's really cool in The Last of Us is that the enemy AI is pretty decent. Like, it will try to flank you, and then sometimes their routes will change, and then the whole encounter is just thrown off from what you thought it was. I used a lot more of the weaponry in The Last of Us. I was constantly switching for different scenarios. Much prefer. And they solve the using multiple weapons with, like, the backpack. You stop combat for a second, you pull out your backpack, and then you pull out another gun from it, and that's their kind of excuse for giving you a ridiculous amount of weapons that no human can carry.
Yeah. The crafting element I did like more this time around. The first time I played it, I found it to be an impediment.
Oh, God, no. That's the other thing that I think this has over BioShock, or maybe equal to, is whereas, like, BioShock has the vigors and the plasmids, this has, like, throwables or craftable items. It's got the shivs, so if you do get attacked by a clicker, you have an option to kind of use it as a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, the closest thing in Infinite regarding like a handheld item is the melee.
Which is, it becomes useless after a while. I found, at least.
I would use it frequently. I tried to employ a variety of weapons whenever I played it, so I would, sometimes use the melee more than I would usually, or sometimes I'd be totally dependent on the
Yeah.
weapons, or sometimes I'd use the vigors more.
I did like the the kind of contextual kills with the skyhook thing, but
Yeah.
it just became repetitive after a while. I wish there were more animations.
In The Last of Us, the throwables, I did not find much use for at all.
Oh.
I didn't use them very. Well, I should clarify. I should say the bricks I would use as like a distraction, those types of items, but the bombs, the grenades, I almost never used.
I use those all the time.
I've heard some people say that the smoke is practically useless.
I did not use the smoke at all. I used a smoke bomb maybe once or twice, and then I never touched him again.
I didn't use it once.
No, like the thing with the like the Molotovs or the
Of all the throwables, I think I used the Molotov more than anything.
like the shrapnel bombs too, are really good. I mean, you could use them in combination with other things. So like, if you throw a brick, and it will alert all the infected to its location, and they'll kind of cluster around there, and that's your chance to throw a Molotov and light everybody on fire. Or maybe you give away your position on purpose and you fire a shot, and then somebody's like, "What was that?" And they come and check out the area, and then you can set down a little shrapnel bomb, and then he walks around the corner and he activates the trip and blows his legs off.
Yeah.
I use those all the time, like setting up traps or luring enemies into certain locations to throw them, taking out multiple enemies at once.
Yeah, there is a trap feature in Infinite that I do enjoy. You can use your vigors to lay traps for enemies that'll like scoop them up and like suspend them in the air, and you can like shoot at them.
I forgot to say Bucking Bronco.
Bucking Bronco.
That's the one I used the most.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This run, I went like an exclusively like magic route. Like every time I found one of those flasks that improve your abilities, I would pump all of them into the vigors, the salts at the start.
Oh, the infusions.
The infusions, yeah.
Yeah.
So I had like by the end of maybe the second zone, I had like 10 slots filled with the salts. It was completely maxed out.
Interesting.
So I could just constantly throw lightning and Bucking Bronco. So throw down Bucking Bronco, it lifts the enemy in the air, shoot them with the hand cannon, and they take extra damage while they're suspended, so it's basically a one-hit kill for everything almost.
Yeah. Me, I've never done that. I always try to get an equal amount of infusions. I get an infusion, I put first one into health, I put the second one into assaults, put the third one into shield, and then lather, rinse, repeat over and over and over again. I never tried to put one over the other.
Yeah, my goal is just to not get hit very much, so this time I used like all the salts slots, and then I think I ended the game with like 10 salts, 5 armor, and 5 health, so I got a good amount of everything too.
The traps, I think, are most useful for me during that final mission, the Hand of the Prophet, which is a defense mission, and therefore my least favorite mission in the game. You get a small bundle of Vox populi surrounding an area, and then you just lay one of those traps like the shock jockey, throw those crystals on the ground, just light them all up. I found it very beneficial there, probably more than any other level in the game, but I did love laying those traps.
Yeah.
Bosses. BioShock is not renowned for its great boss fights.
No. I would say the bosses in Infinite are bad to terrible.
Well, Ken Levine would probably agree with you.
This time, like the ghost of Lady Comstock, that boss encounter was a complete and utter joke because I had the chain lightning, so I would throw chain lightning at all the minions. They would be stuck in place, and I would shock the ghost as well, and then just shoot her with the hand cannons. So it took like 2 seconds for me to take her out in each turn.
That fight used to piss me off, but then I very quickly... I don't even bother with the minions. I just shoot her with lightning, and then I hit her with a heavy ordnance, like a rocket-propelled grenade launcher or a shotgun.
I would shoot her, but because I had the chain lightning, it would go to everybody else, and then it just light her up with the pistol, and it just takes her out immediately.
Because she's a bit bullet spongy, but... yeah, she's kind of a joke in subsequent playthroughs. Not as bad as I once thought. I used to think that was the worst part of the game, but it was more for like story reasons, not to veer too off. But I used to wonder, why is there suddenly a ghost in the game? But as I've played it multiple times, I understand that she's not really a ghost. She's 2 Lady Comstocks in one. Yeah, one's dead, one's alive, and she's insane.
It's pretty flimsy.
But why can she fly?
That's the thing.
That's my question.
It's really flimsy writing to excuse the fact that you're suddenly fighting a ghost. They don't explain it very well, and even Booker is like, "Elizabeth, why is your mother a ghost?"
Yeah, which I lolled.
It's really funny, but it's like... You're writing dialogue to, joke around with the fact that you have no idea why we're fighting a ghost all of a sudden.
Do you consider the handymen bosses?
Yes, and that was the next thing I wanted to talk about regarding Infinite's bosses.
There's like three of them.
The Handyman fights are awful. They're god awful. And I wish they were either removed from the game or heavily redesigned because they are absolutely relentless. They do not stop attacking you and they don't really take any stun damage. And it doesn't seem like even shooting their chest like weak point does all that much damage. Like it doesn't stun them or lock them in their like in place.
I kind of like that about them, that they are relentless. They just never stop moving. So you're all momentum. Like I said, you're always
Yeah.
moving, and you have to try to evade them. But yeah, the stun damage is extremely temporary. So
Yeah.
you just gotta very quickly
They,
shoot them.
They hit extremely hard. So you get hit once and your health is completely depleted. So then you have to run away on the sky rail, and then oh no, they jump on the sky rail and electrify it. So then you have to jump off of there.
I kind of like that. It's like, oh shit, there's no stopping these men.
Yeah, it's fine, but it doesn't feel like there's much to counteract them. It feels like you're. I mean, I guess it should feel like you're running away the entire time. They're just giant, colossal creatures, but at the same time, I felt like
Yeah, have you seen those hands?
yeah, for a game that also attempts to be like an RPG at times, it never feels like you really gain the skill or ability to take them out no problem. Which is something that I would have liked if I felt like my skill or abilities mattered in these fights. But against the Handyman, they're basically useless, and fighting them was always a pain, and I hated every single time that I had to fight one of them.
Yeah, fighting them never bothered me, but the only critique I guess I would say is that there's too few of them. I remember the first time I played it, the handyman pissing me off, and then subsequent playthroughs was like, what? There's like three of them.
Yeah, I hate them. I think maybe if each one was like a unique encounter, like maybe this handyman like has this ability, or he can do this thing, or maybe he's got like some kind of specialized weapon on his hand, or then like the next time you meet one, they have like slightly different abilities, and you have to approach them differently.
You're probably too caught up and running away from them and getting pissed off by their mechanics that you probably don't even realize that they say the most depressing shit. I want to sleep, but my insides keep me awake.
Yeah, yeah.
They're just walking depressed maniacs.
Yeah, that's kind of another issue. Is like sometimes the combat becomes so chaotic that you lose some of the character building and the world building that's going on in the background.
That does bother me. Sometimes I'll be talking to Elizabeth, and then I'll just accidentally walk into an enemy encounter, and then
He's over there.
yeah,
Yeah, it's and then just the shooting starts, and they're talking about the Fox and the Comstock. They're not so different, I guess. And then there's just bullets flying all over the place. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, I don't really mind the final level so much. When I first played the game, I despised the final level. The what's it called again?
the hand of the
the
prophet.
Hand of the Prophet, because it is a defense mission.
I've gotten better subsequent playthroughs, and like I said, the most recent playthrough was the quickest I ever beat that because I made extensive use of the traps. But you were saying,
Yeah, the first time I ever played the game, I remember being like really annoyed with that section because I probably didn't understand what I was supposed to be doing, because I don't think it does a great job of explaining how it's supposed to work. But then also like the way you're supposed to use Songbird's ability and like the cooldown on it. I don't know what the conditions are before you get the next charge, but
sometimes summoning Songbird feels broken. It's kind of weird.
It doesn't work every time. You
Yeah,
use it.
you'll point the camera at Vox's ship and then hit the button, and then he doesn't come, and then I'm pissed off because it's like I need to stop it before the energy drains on the fusion coil or whatever.
Yeah, the last couple of times I played the game, I didn't have any problem whatsoever, like taking out the enemies and protecting the ship. The last time I played the game, I had a much better time with like the weaponry and the gear that they give you, and then also just the abilities that I was using, and just the encounter seemed to go smoother. This time, I was constantly waiting on him to attack the ships when I was pressing the button, but nothing would happen.
A few years ago, I played that mission, and I kept dying over and over again, and I got so pissed that I just turned the game off and came back to it a day later and beat it in one go.
Yeah. So I don't really mind that mission so much. I mean, it is just a big arena fighting a bunch of enemies, and then it's eventually over. But overall, I think Infinite's like boss encounters are pretty poor.
So when it comes to the gameplay, ultimately, I guess it is just a matter of preference. If you like the game to be slower and more methodical, and you don't mind lingering in one space for too long, or if you prefer things to be faster and you progress a lot quicker. And it also depends on your patience for stealth.
Yeah, I much prefer the gameplay in The Last of Us. Like I said, it wants you to take your time and think about the encounters. It's not guns blazing unless you kind of make it that way. I just like the enemy encounters. I feel like they're more well thought out, like the routes that the enemies go on, and then the way it can change once the combat starts properly. I like the extra abilities more. Do you want to talk about like upgrades and gear as part of the gameplay?
Oh, I guess we could touch on that briefly. I don't think there's really a whole lot to say. I feel like in terms of the upgrade system, they're both kind of on par. In BioShock Infinite, you go to a vending machine and buy an upgrade, and in The Last of Us, you have to find a crafting table, right? And then depending on the amount of machine parts you pick up, you can upgrade the weapon.
Yeah, so BioShock, it's pretty much all done through the vending machines.
Yeah.
And
How much money you have.
the gifts that you pick up all throughout. And in Infinite, the gifts are basically they're called gear in the game, which gives you certain like abilities or modifiers. Like maybe
If you punch an enemy, they'll get
yeah,
electrified.
they'll get electrified, or maybe your gun has like a larger clip.
I think there's like some gear that speed up the process by which you can like reload or something like that. There's all kinds of stuff like that. Some make you more powerful against handymen.
Yeah, I found the gear in Infinite to be like really undercooked and like kind of an afterthought.
It's probably my least favorite aspect of the game.
This is kind of the RPG mechanics that I was talking about, where it provides the option to kind of change up your playstyle every time you play the game. Like, if you equip certain gear, it'll suit your playstyle for certain things. Like, maybe you want to be a close range person, or maybe you want to focus on, long range, or maybe you're a melee guy, or maybe you use exclusively, like, vigors and stuff like that. The gear is supposed to kind of complement those mechanics, but they don't really do a good job of that because like the stat increases are like almost negligible sometimes, or sometimes you'll get two items that do pretty much the same exact thing, but they're called different things. It's almost like two different people designed them and didn't realize they were making the same item, and then instead of just simplifying it into one item, they just let it go.
In both games, I don't think it's possible to fully upgrade all of your weapons, like unless you thoroughly inspect every quarter inch of The Last of Us to find every machine part. I don't think it's possible to upgrade all the weapons. I could be wrong.
I don't think so. I did find all 5 tools in The Last of Us, and in Infinite, money was not a problem. I opened, I think, every single safe in the game, except for maybe one near the beginning, because I could not find the lockpicks in the area. I did all the ciphers, I believe, this time as well, which I've never bothered with.
Oh, you did all the ciphers.
Pretty sure I did all of them. All of
Okay.
them that I found. I explored quite a bit, and if I found a cipher, I was like, you know what? I've never bothered with these. Let me actually do them this time. And they weren't that hard to find. Sometimes you'll have to backtrack to an area, which is annoying. But
I'm a lazy bones who hates side quests, so I don't even bother with that
yeah,
shit.
I like the side quests and stuff like that. But I don't think they're done very well in Infinite. But like money was never a problem for me. Like upgrading guns was not really a problem. I upgraded the stuff that I wanted to. The Last of Us, again, it's all about choice and thinking. Like, what are you going to use? What are you good at? What's going to suit your playstyle better?
The currency by which you upgrade your weapons, the machine parts, are a little more scarce.
In The Last of Us?
Yeah.
I felt like I never ran out. I had enough to do what I wanted to do. And the same kind of goes with the pills. Like, there's 2 upgrade systems. There's the guns with the machine parts and the crafting tools.
The pills for health.
And then the pills for, like, listening mode or weapon sway or increased health.
I pumped all of my upgrades,
Into health.
medical into health, because
Yeah.
I did not make use of the listening very much.
I did a little bit.
Sometimes I forgot it was even there.
Yeah, I don't think it's implemented all that well in The Last of Us, even though it is pretty useful. It's just, I think the name of it is stupid, incredibly stupid. Like, listen mode. Joel goes into listen mode. Like, oh, okay.
I think I used it more in the first half of the game than the latter half. There came a point where I just like, screw this. I'm just gonna inspect it by walking
no,
around.
I didn't put anything into health at all because I feel like you kind of already have enough health to do what you need to do. And since it is a stealth game, you're kind of trying to avoid some encounters or take them out without being seen at all. So I put my stuff into immediately the weapon sway was the first thing that I reduced, which makes aiming a little bit easier in The Last of Us. I think I did put some into listen mode. I don't love the pill system upgrade in The Last of Us. I think it's just kind of like just thrown in there. They didn't really think it through too much. I like the gun and machine parts level up system. I like that the weapon benches kind of are scattered about. You don't constantly have access to one. You kind of have to make do until you find the next zone where you can do it again.
Yeah, I think that kind of ties into what I was saying earlier. The crafting tables by which you upgrade weapons are a little more scarce, whereas in Infinite, I think every level has one or two vending machines by which you can.
I mean, there's vending machines
upgrade
everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, pretty much every room has a vending machine, it seems like.
I think in Infinite, there's less upgrade vending machines than there are for, like, dollar bill machines to get, like, health and stuff. Or
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or the Vendi Vidi Vigor.
I don't know. It seemed like they were plentiful enough in Infinite, whereas, like, The Last of Us, it's more spaced out, and you have to kind of think about what you're going to upgrade every time you find one. I like the leveling system better in The Last of Us. I think it works pretty well for the most part. There were some things that I definitely used to improve the fun of playing the game. I think the gear system's like not very good in Infinite, and for like trying to have RPG mechanics, I think they're really bad and undercooked.
Yeah, I don't care for the gear much, and I can go either or on the upgrading system. To me, they're not too dissimilar. You can max out your health or shields or whatever, depending on how many infusions you get, but there's only so many weapons that you can like fully upgrade in each game.
And then just to kind of talk about bosses again for a second, The Last of Us doesn't really have proper boss encounters. It has bigger enemies that you fight. Like it has the what are they called? The bloaters or something.
Yeah,
like that.
bloaters.
Like it has encounters like that where you're suddenly fighting a big boss who has bigger, like tougher abilities.
I think I only encountered like 2 or 3 of those in the game as well.
There's a few of them. Another thing I like about the gameplay of The Last of Us is that there are times where it's probably beneficial to not engage in combat at all because the thing about the infected is like the runners are kind of wandering about going crazy, and if they see or hear you, they'll come after you. But the clickers are completely blind. They only can come after you if they hear you. So there are some times where you can just completely sneak past a room full of clickers and you don't have to fight them at all.
More often than not, I tried to stay away from them.
Yeah.
Whereas in BioShock Infinite, if you want to get out of a room, almost every arena, you have to kill every enemy. There's very few times where you can bypass like a couple enemies, and you finish an encounter because the string section stops.
Yeah. Another thing that
which I kind of love.
I don't remember noticing, but I noticed it this time is like every time you get a headshot, it'll do like a musical chime that kind of like messes with the music for a second.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a weird thing I've never really noticed before, but yeah, anytime you get like a headshot or a headshot kill in Infinite, like it'll do a musical chime.
Next time I play it, I'll have to look out for that.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool little detail. But yeah, bosses in The Last of Us, there's not really many. Really the only one is David. And I think it's pretty bad. Like as far as an encounter go, it's extremely like generic and simple, and it's like the classic rule of 3.
I think this time it took me like 2 tries to beat him, maybe even 3. He got me. He snuck up on me.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the encounter, but on the 3rd turn, it became frustrating because he would constantly move around the environment. And you're trying to chase after him, but you're also trying to lure him into a spot that you can sneak up behind him. And it just got frustrating because there's also like glass on the ground, and it's just like a simple mechanic like, oh no, you stepped on the glass, and then creepy man across the room, I hear you.
I know you're not infected. No one who is would fight this hard to stay alive.
Yeah, it's just kind of ridiculous too that, you stab this guy and then... and then he throws you off, and then he just kind of slowly lumbers around the arena looking for you.
It's a very gamey part of the game.
Yeah, it's...
Which some people do complain that The Last of Us loses sight of the fact that it is a game first, which I can understand.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think
Yeah, I don't know if I fully agree, but I can understand it. BioShock Infinite knows it's a game first and foremost.
yeah,
It's part of the reason why I like it better. I've really come to appreciate that.
I think The Last of Us kind of transcends the medium and becomes like something else. It's not like a pure video game, but it's also not a movie that you watch either. Um, and sometimes you just don't have to do gamified stuff for it to be enjoyable. Like
Yeah.
maybe you just don't need boss encounters.
Oh, and one more thing about that David boss is I think I read that depending on the difficulty, like if you go to the harder difficulties, there are no items to throw to distract him. So if that's true, that sounds like that just makes the boss even more of a bitch.
Yeah, so I didn't care much for that. It seemed to give me more trouble this playthrough than I can remember having before. Oh, I guess we should also note the versions of the game that we played.
But yeah, we in both these instances we played the remastered, like they did the BioShock the collection,
Yeah,
and then The Last of Us, not the
Yeah,
remake,
not
but the remaster.
not the Part 1 edition. Just
And the only reason for that is because our Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, all three of them, are dead. So our only option was to play the games on our PlayStation 5 and our Xbox One.
yeah, and kind of just to get that original pure experience to compare them against each other.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to play the remake. I wanted to get something that represented the original playthrough, the authentic experience.
Yeah,
Levels. Yeah. First of all, when it comes to like the visual presentation, I think BioShock Infinite like wins this in a landslide. Part of the reason is because Columbia is a fictional city, so it's a more fantastical setting. Therefore, the architecture can be as beautiful and gorgeous and intricate and detailed as you want it to be. Whereas The Last of Us specifically takes place in America, and American architecture is ugly and characterless.
for the most part. I think there's some areas that are pretty cool. Like there's the Capitol building.
Yeah, the Capitol's a standout.
I mean, it's also the way nature has kind of overgrown everything that makes it more interesting to look at than, just traditional American cities and towns. Or they've also got forests and countrysides and kind of nature environments.
Yeah, BioShock Infinite is like one of the most visually appealing games I've ever played. I love looking at it. Sometimes I just want to put the game on just to look at it. I love the environment. The color is gorgeous.
Yeah,
When you first arrive,
It puts its like best foot forward. It feels like weirdly like all the time and money went into the intro of the game, and then the rest of it is kind of like, okay, we're kind of like reducing things a little bit, but like the opening of the game is pretty amazing.
it still makes me tear up.
Well, just the colors and the use of the music and the way it eases you into the world and kind of unsettles you at the same time. It's like something is very wrong about this place, like from the jump.
When you get into the pod and you ascend into the clouds, hallelujah, and you see Columbia in all its glory, quote unquote,
Bling,
the music,
bling,
the,
bling,
the
bling.
clouds, it still gets me emotional. Even knowing that this is white supremacist town, you can't like deny the beauty of it, the visual splendor.
Yeah.
I love it. It's one of my favorite intros ever.
Yeah, the candles everywhere, the way it's lit up.
Yeah,
the kind of flooded zone.
yeah,
the white robes.
the baptism. It's beautiful. The music, the will the circle be unbroken. I'm pretty sure, I've always thought this, that Ken Levine was inspired by Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh, I'm sure.
Because I know he's a big movie buff like us, and I'm pretty sure that was one of the movies that influenced it, because that feels very Oh Brother, and which if you're going to borrow from something, that's a great thing to borrow from. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah, the environment in BioShock Infinite is pretty unique and interesting all throughout. Like all the zones are pretty different. I do kind of wish that we had like a proper remaster that kind of upped the textures and like fixed some of the
Yeah.
environmental detail.
Some of the texturing is quite shit.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, it was made for the 360, so
I've heard that the texture, which if you get close to some of them, they just kind of look pixely and blurry. I hear that that's way better on the PC, but you and I are console gamers.
yeah. I mean, you can do whatever you want with the PC. So,
But yeah, you find a bag of apples and it's a really shitty texture of these flat apples. That's not great.
A bag of peanuts or grain, and it just looks like Yeah, just a flat texture just with awful pixelation.
Yeah, but the architecture, the colors, the level design, that's all splendid.
I think that's what sells everything. It's the kind of the architecture and level design and detail there, and especially the color.
And I find walking around and exploring Colombia far more interesting than, okay, let's go over to this big pile of garbage that's sitting next to a big pile of rocks.
I guess for like the visuals, sure. I think the thing that you get in The Last of Us though is you get a lot of like character development, like when you explore around the zones. Like you can get some of that too in BioShock.
Oh, you definitely get that in BioShock.
But I feel like it's more effective in The Last of Us. Obviously, Colombia is a very well realized place,
Yeah.
and that's like something I took note of, especially this playthrough, is like the way each zone works and like how it relates to the themes and kind of the like overall narrative.
Yeah, I prefer the way Elizabeth interacts with the levels in BioShock 2 because, well, first of all, there's just her curiosity and just desire to learn about the world, but also I think she just says more interesting things when you happen across things. Like you'd find like a comic book or something in The Last of Us, and I feel like Ellie's reaction to it would be, I don't know, kind of subpar or flat, not really introspective or
Well,
interesting, whereas Elizabeth, like something funny will happen or something introspective will happen, or she'll ask a question that reveals something about Booker.
yeah, I mean, both games do this. I feel the only difference is that Elizabeth has more like kind of bespoke animations for certain things.
Yeah.
Not as much as I would probably like, but they both games do the same thing. But The Last of It's a little more simple. Like Ellie will walk up to something and then you'll see like a dialogue prompt where you can engage in dialogue, and then she'll say something or ask you a question, or you'll say something to her. And it's kind of the same idea. It reveals more about the world and the characters to each other.
Yeah, that's another thing. The Last of Us will have like dialogue prompts. Like you hit X to activate dialogue prompts. I like it better when it just organically comes out of the characters when you approach something,
Yeah,
because that means you can bypass those dialogue prompts.
you can. I mean, they're skippable if you don't want to do them. But the other thing that you run into sometimes with Bioshock is the fact that,
Accidental enemy encounter.
yeah, it can devolve into chaos, and then you just lose everything that you were listening to.
Yeah, that does happen sometimes. There was one instance of that a couple playthroughs ago where Booker was talking about his past with the Pinkertons, and then I guess I ran into some soldiers and they started shooting, and I think the dialogue still continued as they were shooting, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, which is always a strange thing. It's like the characters are talking like in a normal tone, like a conversational tone.
I
Then
used
all
to
of a
work for the
sudden-
Pinkertons.
Yeah, yeah.
They called us in when the workers got restless.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
What are your favorite levels in Infinite?
Infinite, well, there's the opening.
I guess we'll talk a little bit about the tutorials because both game does have like a tutorial section where in
Oh, yeah.
Infinite, yeah, you come into Columbia, and I love this. I love the organic way that you learn how the combat and stuff works. Like you go to the fair, and then there's a game where you can shoot these Vox Populi cardboard
Yeah.
cutouts, and then there's like some carnival barkers saying, "Try out the new bucking bronco," and that's how you learn about it. There's not like some asshole saying, "Here, Booker, take this. Here's how this works."
Yeah, press X to reload.
Yeah, they don't do that bullshit.
Press the X button.
Whereas in The Last of Us, it's what's that guy's name you're chasing at the beginning?
Robert.
Yeah, if that's right.
I'm pretty sure it's Robert Solar Guns.
Yeah, what do you think about that tutorial section?
Well, I mean, we should also say that BioShock Infinite has a fantastic opening, but so does The Last of Us.
Oh yeah,
and how it's like sets up its world and the introduction to the characters Joel and Sarah and Tommy.
yeah, that's phenomenal. That's a great sequence. It's emotionally gripping. It's unexpected. I'm sure there's a lot of people who were taken aback by that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially back then when it came out. Definitely not something you expected to see in the beginning.
Yeah, it's a pretty riveting sequence, particularly the sequence where you get in the truck.
Yeah,
to-
just kind of seeing the world devolve in real time, like the infection has spread and you can see the city start to implode on itself, just everything comes apart. and then you quickly see like the
How quickly humanity turns on one another.
exactly that's kind of the major theme of The Last of Us is like what the infection has done to people, not in terms of like infecting them, but like changing their morals and what they care about and what they'll do to survive.
As John Goodman said in 10 Cloverfield Lane, as of Friday, kindness and generosity are antiquated customs.
Yeah. It's just and you can see there's the one soldier who gets the order and he doesn't want to do it, but he understands what he's got to do. Yeah. So I like the way it sets up the world, and then the way it picks up, just boom, hard cut 20 years later. We don't get to see, how everything came to be. It's just the way the world was and the way it is now, and I really like that they just drop you into it.
Yeah.
But what was your
what are your favorite levels in Infinite?
Oh, in Infinite. Yeah. So, yeah, there's the opening, which is fantastic. I always, every time I play Infinite, I kind of think to myself, I'm not gonna spend very much time in the opening this time. I know how the gameplay works. I don't need to do all the carnival rides. I don't need to talk to the people. But you walk around, you hear the NPCs talk to each other, and you hear them say like really insane, crazy things, and it doesn't immediately click with you like what's going on in this world until
juxtaposed with this idyllic setting.
Yeah, exactly. Like this perfect, like beautiful area with like wonderful colors and green, like lush bushes with roses and petals and water and baptism and beautiful music, and then people are saying awful things.
And then just the weirdness of like, oh, this place deifies the founding fathers.
Yeah. So you got statues of Franklin, Washington, and
Jefferson.
Yeah, like the key, the sword, and the
scroll.
The scroll. Yeah.
Did you listen to the pastors rambling like all the way through? Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing that that takes up the time is like sometimes these people will just talk endlessly, which fleshes out the world more.
Yeah, the opening of that game, you can like go through it in about 20 minutes, or you can spend like an hour just traversing.
Yeah, I want to say I spent probably like a good 2 hours in just the opening, just walking around, listening to people talk, doing all of the carnival stuff, boosting up some of the early abilities that you get. There's a lot to do in that opening. So that's definitely a highlight section. Probably the only other one that really jumps out to me is Finkton. Just because it is such a like a sore spot for me, like the idea of somebody lording over. He's basically like a manager. It's just a horrible manager who treats his employees like dirt. And works them to the bone and has like them almost hypnotized and in a trance to where they're all like working in unison. And
yeah.
What is it? Work, leisure, training, and sleep, and then it just repeats it.
Yeah, the clock that's divided in. You spend this much time doing this, and then this, and then this.
And of course, work has got the biggest pie on the wheel.
It's the biggest part of the graph.
Yeah, the biggest chunk.
And then you have to hear that asshole justifying his elitism over the PA system. History is built off the backs of men like you.
Yeah, it's there's cows, and we have to milk them for everything they're worth, and just kind of stuff like that. So that section really hits home because that is very much the society that we live in currently.
Yeah.
Where it's just a bunch of awful CEOs and managers that run everything and just treat people like garbage. It's like it is slave labor.
Yeah.
Is what's going on in the game, and it practically feels that way in real life. And then just the racism and the way they talk about these people and what they use them for. So that was kind of like the most, I think, well-conceived zone of Infinite that I can think of off the top of my head.
I love that droning tune that plays in Finkton. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Just on a loop.
Just terrible, awful, crackled music.
Yeah, it's so atmospheric.
Yeah, and I was telling you before, while I was playing it, but something I had never noticed until this playthrough was there's the clang of the hammer against the anvil constantly going on in the background. And then every time it clangs, the workers will move. They will scrub. They will wash something. And they're all in unison doing this. So
everything has to be in time. Time is such a focal point of that section. The giant clocks and everywhere.
I think that section takes longer than it should because of the Chen Lin stuff. But that's also where the game kind of starts to get into more of the mind-bending, weird, universe-hopping kind of ideas that it has. But, like, landing on Finkton and kind of exploring that area and hearing the dialogue and hearing, like, the stuff going on in the background.
And when you get there, you can choose not to kill any soldiers beyond a certain point. You can just calmly walk through Finkton and just observe.
Which is weird because there's coppers everywhere, and then you're just walking around with a gun
Yeah.
in the middle of like Slave Town, and nobody says anything to you. It's like, hey man, why do you got a gun? Like, what are you planning on doing?
It's possible that maybe Fink told them not to shoot him because he does try to employ you as his head of security.
That's true. He does like have a test for you, and he wants to hire you.
Don't shoot him unless he shoots at you first.
It also like shows Fink to be like a gigantic fraud who
Yes.
doesn't have any original ideas of his own.
Yes.
He's just a charlatan who steals everybody else's work and then passes it off as his own. Mm-hmm. So I really like that about it. I mean, that's kind of like the theme for everybody in Colombia. Like even Comstock is like kind of a gigantic fraud.
Oh yeah.
And he's running from the person that he used to be, and he like pumps himself up to be something else and deifies himself. But like to stay on top of levels. Unless like I'm forgetting some that don't jump out to me immediately. What were kind of your favorites?
Every time I play this game, I look forward to the Cornelia Slate section. I love the Hall of Heroes. One of my favorite things in the game is outside the Hall of Heroes when you arrive and you see Slate's poster and then his militia swarms you. There's this song playing in the background like, hurrah, hurrah, for Southern rights, hurrah. I love blowing away those Confederates to the tune of their own racist bullshit.
Yeah, I forgot about that section. That is one of the better parts of the game, just because of the way it.
I try to prolong it until the whole 4-minute song is over. I love that section. I look forward to it every time. And then inside the Hall of Heroes, the way you see Comstock has corrupted history and rewritten it to make him the hero.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Comstock wasn't there.
Comstock wasn't there.
Yeah.
That's great world building and just the hideous, abominable, racist caricatures of the Native Americans and the Chinese.
I mean, some people have complained that like that stuff goes too far as being like caricatures, but it's like
bullshit, says I.
It's entirely the point of this world and this villain that they're painting is that he does see them this way. So, I mean, they have to be presented the way that he sees them.
Yeah.
And they have to talk about them the way that Comstock and some of the other inhabitants of Colombia see them. So that stuff doesn't bother me. It just makes me loathe the villains even more, and it makes me more unsettled by this world that I'm inhabiting.
Yeah, that's how he demonizes them, by reducing them to these awful caricatures, like World War II propaganda.
But then, like you said, also using like actual history and then putting himself in there and then propping himself up to be some kind of hero or savior or martyr or whatever it is. Just does more for like the character development and the world building and especially Booker, because Booker, did participate in these events, and he does have ties to it, and he does know what's going on and what the truth was. So
yes,
it helps flesh him out some more. And it, both of these games are similar in like how their stories are presented, like as far as like being a morally questionable male figure, kind of protecting or escorting a female figure.
Yeah, a grizzled middle-aged man who has lived a life of murder and selfishness, and he has to escort this more comparatively pure, innocent person across a landscape, although in the case of Ellie versus Elizabeth, Ellie is foul-mouthed and she is more aggressive, whereas Elizabeth is kinder, but she does not take his shit. She will fight back if need be.
Yeah, but again, staying on the
levels.
Yeah, that's
a high point. I love that level.
That is a high point.
I do like just the bleak depressingness of Shantytown.
Yeah. One thing that bothered me was
I don't like shooting the homeless people.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like I guess that's the point, is that these people have been pushed so far.
They're so desperate, they'll just open fire on you.
Yeah, they'll just, like, hold you up in the middle of the street, and then you have, like, no choice but to defend yourself. But, like, the game offers no way to diffuse the situation. I feel like that would have been a good Elizabeth moment to use her, or kind of, talk them down, or, make some kind of peace.
Yeah, there's a moment in that section where Elizabeth can open up a tear to give like some people scrounging for food, like a vending machine full of potatoes.
Yeah.
But I wish there was an option to give like people money because I have an abundance.
Yeah, that was another thing that I thought of. Like I said, money was not a problem on this playthrough. So anytime like there's a little kid with his hand stretched out, I was just like, dude, if I could press the X button right now to give you money, I would do it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they didn't think to do this.
There's also a moment in that level where if you want to get this infusion, you like have to kill someone to do it. It's kind of messed up.
You don't actually.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, you can skip that combat encounter because after you go through the tear where it leads you to another world where like everything's changed, you backtrack through that zone and the infusion's still sitting there, but there's no guards.
Interesting.
So you don't have to fight them to get that one.
I'll have to keep that in mind next time I play it. It's one less homeless guy I have to cap. Because if you want to get inside that bar and go down the stairs to get that beautiful moment where Elizabeth sings to the kid, yeah, you got to kill some homeless folk to get in it.
Yeah, but it's the only people you have to kill are the people that hold you up in the street.
Yeah, correct.
You don't
correct.
have to kill anybody else.
Yeah, you don't have to kill anyone holding up signs saying hungry, need food, or whatever.
Yeah, but I wish they would have figured out other ways to pass through that zone. But again, it does paint a picture of the kind of society that they've created for certain people.
This is the squalor they live in. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jeremiah.
Yeah, if you're not white, then you're living in trash, basically. Even if you are white, if you're Irish.
Oh, yeah,
They don't care. Irish, black.
Historically accurate. Yeah, they do not like the Irish.
Yeah,
They're
Native
the potato
Americans
eaters.
Or the Asians, they don't like them.
And the other level that I really like in this game is one that I guess a lot of people don't, is Comstock House.
Oh, I don't care much for this either.
Okay. I'll talk a little bit more about why that one resonates with me on an emotional level when we get to like the story, but as far as the gameplay is concerned, I actually really like sneaking around the Boys of Silence. Those things are so creepy to me.
Yeah, they are.
That's the one element of the game where you have like a stealth mechanic, which it comes out of nowhere, which that's a little odd.
Yeah, I kind of wish that this zone had no combat at all. I think this is like a very story focused section of the game, and I think it would have been better that it just didn't have very much combat. It was you wandering around finding the tears and listening to Elizabeth in like this other timeline.
Yeah, the enemies in the game are the Boys of Silence who cannot be killed, and if you are caught by one of them, they summon these lunatics who are total bullet sponges who will exhaust all of your ammunition. So your best course is to just sneak around the Boys of Silence, not fall into their line of sight, and you'll be okay. Just make sure you load up on ammunition before you go into Comstock House, because ammunition is very scarce here.
I didn't have a problem with those guys, but there are like the officers in between in some of the rooms you have to fight.
Yeah.
They're fine. This is also the zone where I feel like some of the enemies, unless I'm missing something, it seems like they're the most detached from the world and the themes. Like, I don't... Like, why is there, like, these things with the sirens coming out of their head? Like, I'm not sure, like, who created these abominations or why or what purpose they serve, but... It seems the most, like, out of step with the rest of the game as far as, like, the themes of American, like, patriotism and exceptionalism and...
Well, at this point, the Comstock House has been converted into an asylum.
Yeah.
And I think those lunatics who are in there are, like, people who are, like, their minds exist in multiple universes, like, kind of like Lady Comstock. They're, like, screwed up in the head. But, I guess it kind of makes sense for you to just suddenly be bombarded by these enemies that you've never heard of, because at that point of the game, you were thrown, like, how many years into the future? In 1984.
Are you?
Yeah.
I thought you were only thrown 6 months into the future. Because I thought you'd find a tear where they're talking to Elizabeth. It's like, he's not coming back. It's been 6 months already.
Yeah, those are tears from the past, because at the end of the level, you find Elizabeth, and she's elderly.
That's right. Yeah, she's an old lady, so...
Yeah. But, yeah, I really like that level. I like the atmosphere of it, and I like sneaking around the Boys of Silence. My only issue with that level is At the end of it, you have to save Elizabeth, who's being tortured relentlessly. And after you like kill the doctors and stop the machinery, you have to like make your way back to her. And then you encounter enemies on the way. And I feel like those enemies break up the pacing. Like at that point, you should be running back to Elizabeth and you just want to like get her out of the chair and pull the thing out of her back. But you encounter enemies on the way that I feel like kind of break up the tension.
Yeah, I didn't really have a problem with that. I was just, I guess because I like took him out so quick, it didn't really matter. Like, that's another section that I remember being longer than it is. At least like that little part, the beginning where you're kind of walking through the snowy ruins of this zone and sneaking past the enemies. That section takes a little longer, but the actual combat at the end, like, took me no time at all.
The first time you played it, you probably also made the mistake of shooting at the boy to silence and had to endure those damn bullet sponge enemies.
Yeah, I think I probably had like one combat encounter that I realized what had happened, so then I just avoided it the rest of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of that zone. It's like there's some ideas that are kind of cool. I do think the guys are creepy, and it has one of the best jump scares in any video game ever.
Oh yeah, that's
even though like you can never have the same experience like again.
That's something I do regret because that scared the shit out of me the first time I played it.
It got everybody the first time they played it. Like it's one of the best ones ever done.
But there are still things about that level that do still register as creepy. Like when you walk into a room, this wheelchair just creeps up from behind a pillar and it's got a little Washington head in it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just unsettling.
Yeah, or like the Comstock heads with the glowing eyes.
Yeah.
Like, why is Comstock's head the only one with glowing eyes? Like, are we saying something with that?
So, Last of Us levels, I guess go ahead and lead the discussion on which ones which stand out.
Standout levels for The Last of Us, it's tough because I think a lot of it revolves around story moments that happen rather than actual environments or things you do in those environments. I really like the quarantine city in the beginning when it cuts to 20 years later. It's in Boston. I really like that. Because that's where you learn what has become of society. Like, you learn about how the ration lines work. You see the way they've got the city quarantined off. You see the checkpoints. You see Fedra, and you, like, understand what Fedra is. And then you hear dialogue about the Fireflies and what they are and, like, what the Fireflies want. I really like the way they set up the world for like how decrepit it's become. There's like public executions when they do screenings for people, and if they've got infections, they just cap them in the middle of the street.
Probably many people are just totally immunized to at this point. Like, yep, just another Thursday.
Yeah, like I think your characters basically say something like, just keep moving or something like that. So I really like that section just for the world building and how it sets everything up. Bill's town is another highlight just because Bill's such a great character, for how they utilize him. I love his attitude. I love how kind of curmudgeonly he is. I like the trap set up everywhere. I like the exploration. I like the way the combat changes. I like the enemies that they introduce.
Yeah, this most recent gameplay, I had like a slight bone to pick with that level, which is where you enter the main, like, I guess, hub of Bill's town. I was roaming around that goddamn thing for like 30 minutes because I missed a ladder, and I had no idea where to go.
Yeah, it's that one specific ladder is kind of like weirdly placed, but I didn't have any problem playing through it. Pittsburgh is also really good. Just again, a lot of this is because of the character stuff that happens. Winter, I think, is pretty much universally regarded to be kind of the most important and best section of the game.
Absolutely.
But again, a lot of that is for like story stuff that happens, but also like the gameplay shift to Ellie's perspective. I think the gameplay does open up a little bit more there. Like the zones are a little bit bigger and more wide open to accommodate for the stealth focus, where you pretty much have to play stealthy, or at least that's what you should be going for, especially since it's all revolving around the bow combat. And then like Salt Lake City is definitely a high point. Just again, it's like the finale of the game, and there's like some very important emotional beats that happen there. So like less so for the architecture and the design of the world, but also like I think that stuff's also really great. It's just done differently and less pretty to look at. But it really is all about like the character stuff that happens in certain levels.
So the two levels that I really liked playing through this time around was I thought that sewer level was one of the best examples of
Oh, yeah.
environmental storytelling, probably the best.
Yeah, Ish's story.
Yeah, I love the little community that they build in the sewers. Everyone's dead, and just piece by piece, you learn a little detail about how it worked and the rules that you must abide by in order to keep this little community working. That was good. I liked that. And then the other one, of course, is the winter section, which that's not only one of the best story parts of the game, but I'm a sucker for snow.
Yeah, well, it's a you've been looking at concrete and jungle, overgrowth for the whole game. So suddenly to be thrown into like a winter wonderland is a really nice change of pace.
Yes, very much so. And I found myself enjoying chasing after that deer and teaming up with David inside the little shack. That got a little tricky at times, but I really loved walking around as Ellie with the bow and arrow, taking out David's men. That just brought me immense joy. This vast little area, and not so much the blizzard section. That kind of pissed me off.
Yeah, I don't remember having this problem like back when I first played the game, but this time I actually got lost in it. Like I got turned around at some point, and then I ended up like right back at the very beginning because I couldn't remember like which direction I came or if I was supposed to go back the other way. So I did get turned around there, and then I eventually found my way back forward.
Yeah, and then the boss fight with David. Yeah, we're a little mixed on that, but the way it resolves story wise is very satisfying. What about least favorite levels? Is there one in Last of Us that you don't like playing?
You mentioned to me a while back there was one in particular that you didn't like, and I wanted to guess which one it was because I feel like I know which one it is.
Let's see.
I don't have a section of the game that I dislike, and the section that I think you dislike are going to be reasons like that I disagree with why you dislike it. So I think every section works and it does exactly what it needs to progress the story along at a good pace. So let's see. The section that I think you probably didn't like was the university section.
I can go either or on that one. That one doesn't bother me too much.
Okay.
That's not the section I was thinking of.
Then I'm probably going to say, well, let's see, Tommy's Dam?
No, it's not that either.
Oh, then I have no idea.
Okay, I had an applause sound effect cranked up if you got it right. But I'm not crazy about that hotel segment.
Oh.
Yeah, that's not my favorite. You going up and down the elevators, traversing that, and then wandering around in the dark trying to find like the thing to power the generator. That's something I don't look forward to. I remember it not being my favorite the first time I played it, and I was kind of dreading doing it the second time. Yeah, that's not my favorite section of the game. I just kind of find it a little bit tedious. Although, design-wise, the way they move you.
Was that in Pittsburgh?
I think so.
Yeah, I liked all that. Again, it's just like the character development and Ellie roaming around and looking at stuff and making comments on stuff. There's the section where she sees the poster of the model and she's like, "Why is she so skinny? I thought they had enough to eat back then." He's like, "Well, they did. Some people just chose not to." And she's like, "That's stupid. Like, people did that for looks. Like that's stupid. Why would we do that?" There's like Joel finds the coffee machine.
I was gonna bring that up. I did like that. Because you and I are both coffee lovers, so we relate.
Yeah, like, I would definitely miss coffee.
God, I miss coffee.
Yeah, I liked all that. I thought for sure you were going to say the university section.
I think I did get lost a little bit this time around, but nah, wasn't too bad.
Because the university section takes place between Tommy's Dam
and Winter.
And it is kind of like a slower section, like a low section of the game where you're really not doing much except for exploring. And there's like a few combat encounters. You find some information about the Fireflies, like what's happened and where they've gone. But there's really not a whole lot of movement because the last thing that happened was like you and Ellie had the big blowout and then you decide to take her all the way to the hospital at the end. But then this is also where Joel gets injured that leads into Winter.
Yeah.
So I thought it was like a perfectly kind of paced kind of stopgap between those two sections.
Yeah, we didn't really say anything about least favorite levels of Infinite, so I'm going to take a wild guess and say that your least favorite part is probably Emporia, the fetch quest involving Lady Comstock and the Three Truths.
Yeah, it's not great.
That's probably the part I don't look forward to most. I just don't really care for fetch quests when they feel really fetch questy.
Yeah, you have to find the three terrors that result in like you finding out information about Lady Comstock, and
Yeah.
even the resolution I don't think is all that profound. Like the whole I'm not your bastard, and he we're both his victim and stuff like that, and I forgive you and you shouldn't blame me, and that stuff. I didn't really feel anything from that.
Of all the emotional beats in the game, that's probably the one that falls the most flat to me. But I'm okay with it as far as like resolving that issue. But yeah, Lady Comstock's story was not the most engaging one for me.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that like we were saying earlier, the ghostly stuff just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. However, not to veer too off because we'll talk about story later, but when you do go to the body of Lady Comstock and Comstock activates those tear machines that just suck the power out of Elizabeth, and she's like in agonizing pain, that did like hit me in the heart the first time I played. It's like, damn, leave the girl alone, man.
Yeah, it's not my favorite section because it is just like 3 zones and a central zone.
Yeah.
And you just run back and forth between the 3 of them.
And then Hand of the Prophet's a defense mission. I don't like those in general, but it wasn't too bad this last playthrough, so whatever.
Yeah, generally I think it's pretty good. Like it does have some like slower, like low moments where I just don't like what I'm doing, or I don't think the combat's very good, or I think the story stuff they're doing is not very compelling, but generally I think it, like all the zones in are pretty good in Infinite, and I think they're all great in The Last of Us.
Yeah, each zone does a good job of like giving you insight into the world and like how it works and the culture. That's important.
Yeah.
And then likewise, Last of Us does a pretty solid job of that. Although I do think the environmental storytelling is far better in Infinite. Like Ken Levine and company are masters of this. The visual.
But you think the environmental storytelling is better in Infinite?
Yes.
I guess so. Yeah, I suppose. More of the story is told through the world in Infinite than it is in The Last of Us. Much of the story in The Last of Us is told through the characters and dialogue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I suppose that's true.
So, probably the thing that puts BioShock Infinite over The Last of Us, for me, ultimately is the story, which, even if you like the story of The Last of Us better, I don't think you would deny that BioShock Infinite has a far more ambitious story.
I guess in terms of, like science fiction concepts and the way it explores them, I would probably say so, yeah. As far as like the character development and the character writing and the storytelling in general, I think The Last of Us far exceeds what BioShock is doing. That was especially apparent to me like this playthrough. Like even the notes that I took on the games, like this is what I wrote for BioShock. Like these are my notes.
Oh yeah.
And then The Last of Us, like I have far more that I took note of and stuff that I felt like was worth noting or mentioning. And a lot of it has to do with like character interactions or the way the world works.
Yeah, I did try to take notes, but I'm actually pretty much doing this off the cuff. I didn't really write much down. Probably because I've played Infinite so many times and I have a lot more to say about it. And yeah. So in the case of Infinite, I do think that it's juggling a lot of themes and story elements. And I think that it finds a good balance between all of them. I don't think it ever crumbles underneath the weight of its ambition. I do think it comes up with a satisfying way to incorporate all of these elements. There's quantum physics, there's multiverse theory, there's American exceptionalism, there's revisionist history, there's labor unions and revolution and all of these things. And they never feel like they're juggling too many things at once and not focusing enough on one. I feel like there's a solid through line the whole way through.
It's generally it's pretty cohesive.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. It tells a cohesive story, much like the first game, where every level goes in depth into like a different aspect of Rapture's culture or something. Like here's the botanical garden and the way we do botany and stuff like that, and then here's the medical center, and then here's the art center. That same thing is here.
Yeah, I mean, in that way, it is like pretty ambitious for what it's trying to do, and I do think it pulls it off at the end of the day, thanks to its like central concept, which is like this multiverse and the tears that can be opened up and the many possible like alternate universes that it's pulling its technology from, that it's building its history out of.
I love a game or movie that benefits from multiple viewings,
Yeah.
where you pick up on clues you didn't see the first time. That makes subsequent playthroughs more rewarding.
Yeah, there's always like little things that you'll see characters do, or like the Latesses especially are kind of like way more important when you play the game a second time.
Yeah.
When you play it the first time, it's just like, well, who are these wacky guys that just appear all throughout the game every once in a while? And then you like hear the like voxophones and the audio logs and like the dialogue about them, and then you play through it again, and then like all the pieces kind of connect, and it's like, oh, so these guys are kind of like the glue that holds this whole world together.
Yes. And the voxophones or audio diaries from the BioShock series, that to me is a storytelling mechanic that I absolutely love. I prefer it to, it's going to make me sound like a lazy, illiterate asshole, but I prefer it to picking up letters and reading, because again, the BioShock series is all about like momentum. Gameplay is always continuing, and the audio diaries or voxophones in this game enable that. You can still play the game and roam around the city while listening to the history of Colombia and what motivates a certain character.
I like them, and I like the context and the history they provide. The thing that's weird to me about them is like where they're placed in the world.
Yeah.
Like, did Comstock just like record this this audio while he was taking
Yeah.
a piss, and then he just dropped it off on the bathroom?
It is odd the way they're placed. You'll like go into like a little garden, and then there's a voxophone. You pick it up, and it's Comstock telling a story. When I was a boy, I had a dog named Bill.
Yeah.
And I said, well, thank you, Comstock. That's
Yeah.
what were you doing in this garden?
Yeah, it's. I feel like the first BioShock game like placed, from at least from memory, they placed their what were they called in that game?
I think they're just called audio diaries.
Yeah, like I think they placed those in the world a little like more intelligently, like contextual to what zone you were in. And here, I feel like you get a little bit of everybody all over the world. And some of the placement, like I said, it's just nonsensical. Like, you get a Comstock story that you find just sitting in a bathroom somewhere. Like, one, Comstock would never use a public toilet, with the rest of the commoners, not when he lives in a castle. But yeah, generally, like, it's a pretty cool way to deliver the story, along with like the actual world design and stuff that's going on there. The Last of Us, I like the letters. I like the audio recordings and the tape recorders that you find sometimes. I like having to stop and read them. Again, it's a much more patient and thoughtful experience, and it wants you to take your time. Two different experiences, but I really like that about The Last of Us.
And the game's central characters, each game revolves around a duo. Booker and Elizabeth, and BioShock Infinite and Joel and Ellie. Coincidentally, both women have names that start with ELI. That's just one of the many, many similarities these two games have. And I do prefer Booker and Elizabeth. I feel like a lot of the themes in BioShock Infinite, they resonate so much with me because so many of them are timely and still relevant.
Yeah.
Such as the obliteration of labor movements. That's very much something America can relate to in modern day. And the blatant white supremacy, I could turn on the news and hear, not even dog whistling.
Like the deification of, like, founding documents.
Yeah,
and
the
founding fathers.
deification of these dead slave owners from 200 years ago. And revisionist history, that's very much prevalent in today's society. That really packs an emotional punch with me, but also just the characters of Booker and Elizabeth. I really love, like, both these games want you to feel like your female companion because they're both, like, they're your daughter. They want you to really care about them, and BioShock Infinite really did that to me. When you go into Comstock House, I'll never forget it. When you go into Comstock House and suddenly the world has changed and everything is a monument to Elizabeth now, and you hear this creepy droning music, and then Elizabeth's voice comes over the PA system and she's talking like a zealot. That just unnerved me. And then you would hear like the tears or whatever of Elizabeth screaming in agony as she's being relentlessly tortured. It's like, oh God, I've lost her. And then I remember walking through Comstock House uncertain of whether or not I was actually going to get her back. It's just like, wow, she might be done for. And then you meet her and she's elderly. It's like, oh God, her life is wasted. Oh, this poor creature. And then thankfully, she uses what's left of her abilities to send you back so you can save her. Yeah, I really wanted to help Elizabeth. She really felt like I had a connection with her.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all true. I pretty much agree with everything. It's a good duo, and I like the way their kind of connection to each other is slowly not built, but like revealed throughout the game,
Yeah.
while also kind of building it as well. Booker is a very questionable man when it comes to morals and stuff that he's done. Even he knows that he's not a good guy, and he says so like many a time.
Yeah.
He makes it very known to Elizabeth that like, I'm not a guy you should put your faith or trust in.
And what I'm doing for you is not charity, it's a job.
Yeah, and that's a way for Elizabeth to also kind of discover, the world herself, and just how it's not what she thought it was, because she's kind of lived in her books, in fiction, in fantasies, because she's been locked in a tower forever.
Yeah, that's one of the things I find most fascinating about Elizabeth is that she is a very kind, decent, fundamentally good human being, but at the same time, she is the most privileged person in Colombia because she has literally lived her whole life in a tower,
Yeah.
a golden tower on high, separated
She has
away.
not been corrupted by anything.
Yeah, separated away from the anguish that the working people feel. So when it gets to that section where the revolution is in full force, and she doesn't really her only moral guide is Booker, and he's an asshole. So
Yeah, she's a girl who doesn't understand how the world works. So
Yeah.
she has nothing but questions when she sees, all the craziness that's going on. It's a good way for Ken, for the writer or the writers, to kind of explore these topics and question, the value of them. Like, are they good? What are they bad? What does this mean in modern society?
yeah.
Like, Elizabeth is like the way that they ask those questions, and it's a pretty smart way to do that, I think.
Yeah, and Booker, he sometimes he does impart wisdom. Like at one point he says there's survival and then there's taking pleasure in the act of killing someone. Reasonable. And then later on, when Colombia has been laid waste by the Vox Populi, Elizabeth looks upon it and says, what a waste. How is the city ever going to come back to this? And he says, maybe it shouldn't. Because even though, yeah, it would be great if the Vox Populi could just, oust the founders and then turn it into a more egalitarian society, the very existence of this city is an affront. So it's not unreasonable that you want to see the whole thing just crumble.
Yeah, and also, like, another thing it talks about is kind of extremism, and you're basically trading one extreme for another.
Yeah.
It's like, it's possible for things to be taken too far, even if they're done with the best intention.
And for the record, neither I nor Aaron buy into the bullshit that this is a both sides bad game.
No, it's not. Like, the Vox Populi are entirely justified in what they're doing. And obviously the methods that they eventually go to achieve their goals are like kind of twisted and violent. But it's also it's a product of the environment they're brought up in. Like,
yeah.
If you're brought up in like this horrible like squalor and violence where your people are just killed in the streets, or you're profiled or like prejudiced against.
Yeah, the cyclical nature of violence is very much a theme in the game. The hurt people thing. And Daisy Fitzroy, totally justified in blowing Jeremiah Fink's head off. Yeah. That's fine. Going after his child, not so justified.
Less so of like blowing a kid away. So yeah, I don't subscribe to that kind of line of thinking. I think it's nonsense. It's just talking about, even like revolutionary movements that are done for the right reasons can eventually devolve into basically the same exact thing you were fighting to begin with.
Which we have seen in...
which happens all the time.
And then also, Father Comstock is a great villain. The whole thing with him is that he wants forgiveness for the actions that he's committed for being a Pinkerton and a Native American murdering genocider. And he accepts this baptism, but
it's all phony and false.
It does not provide him the salvation he thinks it's going to. So the only thing he can do is okay, I'm just going to justify my racism. Okay,
Yeah.
it didn't work. The dunk in the river, I'm still the same prick I was before. So now I'll just justify it.
Yeah.
But I still want to get back at the Sodom below for making me do these things. So I'm gonna bomb the shit out of him.
He's a pretty interesting villain. I do like that they use kind of religion. He tried it and it didn't exactly work for him. So he basically crafted his own in his own image to, like you said, to justify the things that he's done and justify the person that he is rather than confront those things head on.
Yeah, but then there's also voxophones that you'll pick up where they'll say that he's abused the terror machine so much that it's warping his mind that he's starting to
Yeah.
really believe his bullshit.
Yeah, he's like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing is he can't have children anymore, which
Yeah.
ties into like what sets up the entire chain of events.
And another thing, like, about the game really emotionally just hitting me is when you finally do face Comstock. I'll never forget walking into the room. Comstock says to Elizabeth, "Come to me, my child." And then he laughs and says, "Well, come on, I don't bite." And I was like, "You asshole."
He kind of ignores you.
Yeah. It's like, you tortured her for
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah.
I don't bite. I don't feel bad about smashing your head into this font.
Yeah, it's a pretty satisfying moment, even though it's like extraordinarily hollow at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like nothing much comes of it. It's just he's dead, and then we got to move on with like the rest of the story.
And then, of course, the final 20 minutes of the game, the way everything is revealed to you just blew my mind. And
Yeah, I think that's kind of the best part of the entire experience, and that's the thing that makes it all worth it in the end, is seeing the way that the ideas and the characters, like, it all comes full circle and it's all revealed to you. Everything that was set up has a payoff. Like, the pinky is like the biggest thing. As when I first played it, it's like, oh, okay, she's just missing a pinky. Like, it's a weird quirk. She's got a thimble on her pinky or whatever. You know? Okay, that's just part of her character design. But no, it becomes like the most important thing in the game for how it sets it all up.
that's why she has her powers, because a piece of her exists in 2 universes.
Yeah.
That's why she can open up portals between them. And yeah, Booker like going back on the deal or trying to and screaming, "Give me back my daughter," just makes me cry every time.
Yeah, it's a really good ending, and it's a really great way to tie all the threads together and bring it home. And also just the way they utilize the multiverse, which is something that we almost always nowadays see used for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
It's used for nostalgia, or cameos, or showing you crazy fun things or set pieces, instead of being used to explore the characters or the themes, which is why something like Everything Everywhere
All at once, the movie.
works, but then something like Multiverse of Madness doesn't work because it's just Cameo City, and that's its only purpose.
I'm so glad this game was made before Multiverse was ran into the ground.
Yeah. So it still works in that way. I pretty much agree. I like the characters. I like the way they relate to each other. I like the way the story unfolds. I like all the hidden clues all throughout. I love how rewarding it is on a second playthrough. But as good as all that is, I think The Last of Us is just so much better
Yeah, talk about why.
at what it's doing. I think the characters of
Joel
and Ellie are so much more well drawn and well realized and fully fleshed out, and they feel like fully fleshed out 3-dimensional characters. The way they relate to each other, the dialogue, the subtlety of their performances, like the little character quirks that each one of them has, the way they like start as opposing forces and then slowly kind of begrudgingly become closer to each other.
Troy Baker is the man.
Yeah, Troy Baker plays both characters.
He plays Booker and Joel.
That's another thing that's like funny about these 2 releases in the same year. That
completely different characters and completely different performances. I don't think I would have known they were the same guy if I didn't look it up.
Yeah. I like the way that they set up the world, and then the way the characters engage with the world, and the way they comment on the world. But yeah, it really is like Joel and Ellie and kind of their nature, and then the way they eventually are like forced to kind of come together, and then the way they kind of develop a trust and an understanding and a bond is extremely natural. I love how it's paced out. That's one of the things I think is probably the best about the game is the pacing is pretty much perfect in The Last of Us. I don't think there's an like an out of step moment or an out of place, sequence or something that can be chopped off for time. I think everything has its place. It's little things about the characters, like how Joel will like look at his watch, like his broken watch that his daughter gave him. Like that happens all throughout the game. Like anytime he feels himself becoming kind of like attached to Ellie or like more emotionally involved, he'll kind of look at his watch, and there's like a guilt in his brain that's like he cannot get attached to anybody because all it's going to result in is just sadness and tragedy. Whereas like Ellie is very much looking for somebody to become attached to care about and to care about her. That's her whole thing. Like everybody she knows that loves her or cares about her is dead and gone, and Joel's the only one that's kind of stuck around, even though he's like kind of done it against his will. So you've got this push and pull against somebody who's looking for somebody versus somebody who wants to stay isolated, and it's just like this perfect storm to kind of bring them together and create the bond that they have. Other things like Ellie, when she's unsure or nervous, she'll like grab her hands and fingers and like mess with them. I like stuff like that. It's just the way they create the characters and the way they perform the characters. I think the writing also is like far superior, and it's because of the subtlety. It's about like the little things, little details, and like facial reactions. That's another thing, is like this is a more realistic styled game.
Yeah, BioShock Infinite and Ken Levine's style in general. He likes, like, I call it cartoon realism. Characters, features are exaggerated just enough to make them look cartoony, but they're still accurate to like human anatomy, but they're just exaggerated enough to where they don't look totally real.
That's kind of like one of the things that about BioShock Infinite. I wish that the visual fidelity and like the graphical style was a little bit more realistic, because I think the writing and the storytelling kind of demands it, because I think the emotional moments would hit that much harder if you're reading it more on their faces.
Yeah.
Because when you're watching it, it looks more like cartoon characters kind of going through these exaggerated animations, and the emotion doesn't sell as well as it does in The Last of Us, where you're looking at practically real people, having these emotions, and it's capturing these subtle facial movements or movements of their eyes, or it's doing a lot more with its tech and its animation. And I think the kind of the cartoony art style underserves the story that BioShock's actually telling.
I do think Elizabeth has some pretty banger expressions, and the fact that she has got such big, wide, expressive eyes, and she's by far the most expressive character in the game.
Yeah.
I do think she really does sell the emotion.
Something else that I think hurts BioShock when it comes to like the writing and dialogue is, like I said, The Last of Us is pretty much perfectly paced, and I think the writing is well paced, and the performances, like the dialogue, is well paced between performers, and it feels natural. But in BioShock Infinite, it's like they're trying to record their lines as quickly as possible, and they're responding to each other like in an instant without having thought about or processed what the other person said. It's really weird. Like you were saying, the game just keeps going and keeps going, and it's really fast. But like if you listen to the dialogue, sometimes I found it to be really unnatural sounding. Like one person would talk and then maybe ask a question, and the other person would immediately start talking and answering or making another comment about something else. And it just didn't really flow like a natural conversation would. So there's some times where I wished Infinite would just slow down to let me take it in a little bit more, to let me kind of buy into the characters more, or let me think that the characters are actually thinking about what they're saying rather than just delivering lines.
Yeah.
I just think Ellie and Joel are much more interesting characters. I think the story they're telling is much more intimate and smaller stakes. And to me, that's just
Yeah.
it's just better.
You and I both love small little indie sensibility type stories, but we also love big, grandiose things. And
Yeah.
we both love them. I think I do somewhat respond a little more to big, grandiose things, which is like why Terry Gilliam is one of my
Yeah.
favorite directors.
Yeah, like for as like emotionally impactful and engaging as like the stuff in BioShock is, I don't think there's a single moment that hits like the baby girl moment with David in Winter, or the giraffes moment, or even the opening of the game in The Last of Us.
The giraffes moment, tragically, neither time I played it didn't really get me, but this time around, the baby girl really hit me. After she
Yeah.
slaughters David,
Yeah.
and he comes in and he just has to comfort her because she almost endured a really traumatic experience. The dude's a pedo. And he calls her baby girl, which
Yeah.
is what he called his daughter. That really did get me this time around.
That's when you kind of feel like their care for each other, and especially Joel's to Ellie's has kind of like solidified, and he's like, that's the moment where he becomes all in. Like he's gonna do whatever it takes to protect this girl
Yeah.
and save her from the horrors of the world. Even other things like Sam and Henry, like I never used to be like the biggest fan of that section, like, or their story, but like even that this time around actually like kind of got me a little bit. It's just a horrible thing to have happen, but it's the reality of this world that they live in.
The other big moment with Last of Us that did get me a lot more this time around was when Ellie runs away on the horse after Joel tries to weasel out of taking her the rest
Yeah.
of the way.
Because
He knows that she's Sarah 2.0 and he cannot bear the thought of losing another one.
yeah, that's what I have in my notes. Is Joel feels himself becoming too attached, and he argues with Tommy to take her away from him. And then the thing that ultimately makes Tommy agree is that he sees how much Joel cares about Ellie, and he's like, I know what this is going to do to him if he ever has something happen to her like what happened to Sarah, so I get it. I'll take her the rest of the way. You've done your part. But then Joel can't do it. He can't let her go, so he decides to do it himself. Yeah, just the way the characters are written, the way they're performed, like Troy Baker, Ashley Johnson, still to this day, I think two of the best performances in a video game ever. Just for the way their characters are like written and motion captured and performed physically and vocally.
Yeah.
I think they're doing a lot with the characters in this game, and a lot of it is from like the cutscene moments, but there's also tons of stuff in the world during the gameplay that you can find that's really satisfying and helps build their story. Like when he finally trusts her enough to give her a gun, like that's another really big moment in the story. And it's like he's giving her a talk about like gun safety basically, and it's like that father-daughter dynamic that I think comes through more here than it does in Infinite, because that stuff's not really revealed until the end.
Yeah, all of this is really great, and I really love it, and it really got me a lot more this second playthrough. Ultimately, I do think that Booker and Elizabeth resonate with me more. I've never felt so attached to a character as I did Elizabeth, specifically in those moments like during Comstock House, or when she dances for the first time, and she's so happy to be out of her
She's
prison.
never heard like music.
Yeah, and then the ending. I think that really just puts me over.
Oh, well, yeah, speaking of the ending, another thing I really love about both games, like we've already mentioned, is like the questionable morals of our main character that we're playing as.
Yes.
And that is like entirely the ending of The Last of Us, is you take Ellie all the way to this hospital, to the Fireflies, because she's basically the cure for mankind, potentially. And then you find out that she's been put asleep and that they're going to operate and that the operation will kill her, but they might get a cure out of it, and like nobody has really been explained this to, or like no one's properly consented to this. It's just like you've gone through this entire journey as this character with this person, and then you don't even get a proper like goodbye or a detachment or
Yeah.
it's somebody ripping something away from you. So Joel responds in pretty much the only way he knows how, which is extreme violence. And yeah, I love the moral debate about the question, like whether or not he's a villainous character. I think the things that he does are villainous and can be seen as villainous and selfish in some ways, but you can also view them as like an extreme act of love.
Yeah.
Just like the things that he's willing to do to protect somebody.
It's very similar to Booker.
Yeah, but also the lies he's willing to tell to protect that. That's another thing. It's like honesty could perhaps be the best course here. And that's something obviously that gets explored in the follow-up, but I love the way it leaves the characters with kind of this uncertain note. The last line of dialogue is just the word okay, and it's kind of like an okay of acceptance, but also like, I know you're full of shit. You're telling me a lie. So yeah, I love the ending of both games. But yeah, The Last of Us, I just think the way it makes you think about the characters and forcing you to do the things that you have to do is also a really interesting thing.
I also love the final after credit stinger in Infinite when you go back to Booker's office and he thinks he hears the cries of little baby Anna / Elizabeth, and he opens the door. We never find out if Anna is in there, but I like to think she was, and I like to think this Booker did right.
Yeah, I pretty much see it the same way. I think that's the only way the story really like works and is satisfying.
Yeah, but I do like that it's not told to us. We just have to make up our own mind.
Yeah, at least until a ill-begotten DLC rolls around.
Yeah.
That undoes all of that.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about Burial. I will. Okay, I'm going to say this. I've never played Left Behind DLC, but it's better. Even without playing it, I know what happens. I'm just going to say it's better. Burial at Sea was a mistake.
Yeah, it's just mechanically and writing. I'm sure it's it's all right, but for what it did to the story and the way it mangled kind of some of the things that I loved about the story of the original Infinite game, Burial at Sea is a big pile of crap.
Yeah, thankfully it's DLC, so I don't have to play it, so I don't.
Yeah, I'll never... I might play it once again for, like, a curiosity, but I never again as part of the actual experience. But yeah, just back to, like, story and characters, I like both. I just think that The Last of Us is performing at such a higher level. And I think a lot of it has to do with the subtlety of it, like how slow it is and how patient it is, and the focus on realism. BioShock is delivering, like you said, like almost like an amusement park.
Yeah.
Full of these wacky zones with these insane characters, and you go on this ride. The Last of Us is a far more intimate human tale, and I think that just resonates more with me.
Real quick, do you think Comstock is a more interesting villain than Marlene?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Marlene's not even in the game.
Yeah, she's I guess it's even kind of questionable to call her a villain, but she's the main antagonist of the game.
Oh, I mean, she's not even an antagonist. She is
the Joel.
Well, not until the very end of the game.
Yeah.
Like, the journey is, like, what the game is, and there really is no central antagonist. It just has bad people that you meet along the way. It has good people that you meet along the way.
Yeah, the standout villain is David.
Yeah, it's David.
Yeah.
And he's creepy in a way that can come off as, like, overly generic, but the way it's performed and the way, like, Nolan North like creates this character is just extremely sinister when he's, like, full on villain mode, but, like, the way you, like, never trust him, but then, like, he helps you out, so you're constantly, like, thinking about, if he's somebody that you can put your faith in.
The first time I played the game, when we encountered David in the forest out in the snow, I did think, okay, this will be the first decent person we encounter because it seems like we just keep running into assholes.
No.
I was very wrong.
Yep.
Not only was he not a good person, he was by far the most dastardly individual in the entire game.
How did you put it?
Tiny pieces.
Tiny pieces.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's a great villain, but obviously he's not as well constructed and as like fully thought through like Comstock, because Comstock is the central antagonist. Comstock is Columbia, so
yeah. So, having replayed both of these games, what is your final number grade on a scale of 1 to 10 for each of them?
Ooh, The Last of Us, I would still give a 10 out of 10 to. I think it pretty much nails everything that it achieves. It's all about the story and characters. There's so much subtlety and detail in their performances and the way they're presented. But even the gameplay itself, it's just really fun to play. I had a much better time than I expected because I think the second game improves on a lot of stuff that the first game did. So I was wondering, going back, was it still going to hold up? And it does. BioShock Infinite, I would give like a 9 out of 10 on the story front. The gameplay, I'd probably give like a 8, maybe a strong 7, because I do think that game, as far as like the gameplay, doesn't hold up as well. There's some things that it does that I just don't like at all. There's some encounters that I think are just flat out bad. But it is really propped up by its story and its world and its characters.
So, for The Last of Us, I think I would also give it a 10 out of 10. The storytelling is immaculate, the character work is beautiful and engrossing, the voice acting is tremendous, the graphics are lovely, the gameplay is fun, and although I don't find the world as interesting to explore or examine, the story and character work more than makes up for it. I had a great time replaying it, a much better time than I did the first time when I was a younger, less experienced gamer. Yeah. Excellent game, holds up tremendously well, you're correct. And like you, I also think the second game is an improvement in a lot of ways, but that's a conversation for another day. BioShock Infinite, I also give a 10 out of 10. I think the story is one of the best in gaming. It feels incredibly well crafted, well thought out. The world building is excellent. Columbia is beautiful and horrifying simultaneously. The gameplay is a ton of fun. I think the shooting mechanics is incredibly efficient, but paired with the vigors, it's just infinitely replayable, no pun intended. And Booker and Elizabeth are among my favorite characters in gaming. Elizabeth, specifically, she's the heart and soul of it, one of the best companions in any game I've ever played. And I am always happy to just be in this world again. So, 10 out of 10 for both games. Love them both. Prefer BioShock Infinite. So, that's our video game retrospective. Our first of who knows how many, if any more, verses.
Or just discussions about video games.
Yeah, this is more of a discussion than it is a verse, because none of us were trying to make the case that one is objectively better than the other, but we do have our opinions. Maybe next time we'll tackle a movie. So there's that. If you listen to these two laymen who are unqualified to talk in specific about video games and enjoyed it, thank you for listening.